Hey y'all, new movie time. It's Matinee 63.
Yep.
Now, again, this week, we've had car issues and various other things, so we did not get to the theater. However, we'll give you a little bonus this time. We saw Netflix movies, Shudder movies, so we're going to do 4 this time, because I didn't realize that we were going to end up seeing like 4 new movies. Well, 3 movies in 1 series. So I decided, well, we'll just throw them all in there, because why not?
Yeah, I decided to revive Jenny's car. $1,100 for AC compressor and brakes all
We
around.
haven't picked it up yet.
Yeah, picked it up yet. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh my god.
If you guys would like to contribute, just send us some damn money.
I was afraid that it was going to be that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, because like you said, the AC compressor was the big thing.
It was closer to $1,200.
But there was, when we went down there and said, hey, check the brakes, because there was something wrong with that. And
brake booster, and then it needed pads all around. One of the calipers was not doing good.
Yeah, so it started to add up.
Yeah. It's okay, though.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm worried about it, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, so like I said, so we didn't get to the theater. There is some like theater shit I want to see. I want to see Knives Out. I want to see some other stuff, but maybe we can go see that next week. All right, so the first movie that we're going to talk about, another one of those Shudder exclusives that just popped up out of nowhere. I hadn't heard anything about this. Apparently, it I think it premiered at some of the film festivals or something like that. But this was actually a cool fucking movie. This is called The Headhunter. This was directed by Jordan Downey.
Yeah. And
he made a movie called Thanksgiving, which I have not seen, but that's a really good title. He also had made like some kind of fanfic, like fan fiction films, like for the Critters franchise, which a lot of people really liked. So I believe this is kind of like his, first bigger release or whatever.
Yeah.
I have to say, okay, you guys.
This movie shows you how much the game has changed.
This movie cost $30,000, not $30 million.
$30,000.
Not $300,000, $30,000.
And you'd never know it by looking at it.
Which is nothing in movie making parlance, right? $30,000.
It looks like a multi-million-dollar film.
It's amazing what the director did with so little.
No soy in it at all. It's real kind of a tough movie. It's about this medieval warrior who's fucking around with making healing potions and shit. And he's living in this medieval hovel, and he's got this armor, and he's like a monster hunter.
It's like Skyrim come to life.
Yeah. And he's going out there hunting these monsters and hanging their heads up on the walls, and one thing leads to another, and he accidentally creates a monster. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
The story in this, this is essentially a one-man show.
Yeah, there's only one character. Well, there's a couple characters.
Right, but
his daughter, but she doesn't say much. It's essentially a one-man show. It is.
Yeah, pretty much it's just
not much
him
dialogue. It doesn't need it. It's kind of like a survival adventure. Kind of like almost survival adventure, kind of like in a D&D type setting, like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, like I said, it's very Skyrim, very Game of Thrones kind of look.
But it's bloody. It's bloody, and it's got good effects, and they're practical effects. I didn't see any CG, didn't notice it. There's a lot of drone shots, fucking out in nature. He's living up out in the woods. Some of it's filmed up in Mammoth Mountain.
Yeah. I think it was mostly shot in Portugal.
Yeah.
But they used he really used the backdrops to great effect in this. It's like a whole developed world.
Yeah.
The thing about this, I have to say, now, like I said, the main character in it, who is not named, he's just called Father. He's played by Christopher Rye, who, while I was watching this movie, I was like, he looks like what would happen if Jason Momoa and Michael Shannon had a baby.
Yeah.
He looks like, he has Michael Shannon's real intense, those real intense eyes and that same kind of face, but then he's real big and buff. Like Jason Momoa is. Yeah. So he kind of looks like that, but he also kind of has a Hagrid type of thing going on with the beard and whatnot.
He's in real good physical shape, and he does a lot of cool shit, gets wounded a lot in it, tries to survive. They don't show a lot of the fights with a lot of the monsters.
They don't show any of the fights, really,
they
until
don't really
the end.
They show one at the very end when the main monster.
Yeah.
And it's, they have to control the budget. And instead of that, what they do is, instead of showing you all this combat that's just a bunch of tone and mood, everything seems to be kind of like firelight and torch lit.
Yeah, it's really nice looking.
Creepy.
Movie. It's a really nice looking movie.
Yeah, it's creepy.
It's essentially, like I said, it's almost like a character study.
Yeah.
I think I read one review somewhere that said maybe there was 12 lines of dialogue in this whole thing. I don't even know if there was that many. But this is kind of like I said, this is like the epitome of visual storytelling in the sense that you're just watching this guy. There's a brief scene with his daughter at the beginning where she's alive, but apparently this monster, an undisclosed monster, has killed her. And so his job is, and they never specifically lay this out, but it's implied that his job is that he is a monster hunter for this kingdom, because like you see a castle in the distance, and like in one scene you kind of hear like a festival going on or something like very far away.
Yeah.
And every now and then he hears like a horn.
Yeah.
And then, like, that wakes him up, he's like, oh, well, there must be a new monster I have to kill.
Keeping the population down.
Right.
Keeping
And
the
like I said,
down.
all of you see the monsters, like, basically, he'll hear the horn, he'll get his armor on, and he'll leave, like, on his horse, and then he'll come back, and then he'll put the head on the spike. Yeah. There's, like, a yeti, there's, like, a werewolf, there's, like, a zombie-looking thing, there's, like, all these different monsters. So all of the monsters ever are real in this universe.
Yeah, most all the major monster food groups are represented.
Exactly.
Yeah, all the traditional stuff. There's also I saw some like goblin heads and troll.
Yeah, there's like a troll or a goblin head.
And if you're kind of like in that, if you're kind of coming up from the Dungeons and Dragons era, you'll recognize some of the stuff is kind of based on Errol Otis's drawings from like was it the Monster Manual.
Yeah, it's very much like
Dungeons
that.
and Dragons Monster Manual.
So very much like the first 2/3 of the movie, you're just kind of watching this single dude, and
it's kind of like a medieval Mad Max.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't talk. He doesn't, because there's no one to talk to. His daughter is dead. He talks at her grave a couple of times, so that's about it. So it's like it's just him going out killing monsters, and then sometimes like making a potion that like heals him. That's just kind of like it almost seems like it has like a black magic kind of component. Although, like I said, everything is very grounded in reality. It's very the production design, like the set design and everything like that, is really, really good. Like inside of his cabin, it's just like it's all dirty and scummy, and like there's just this blood dripping down. It's like really nasty.
In Dungeons and Dragons term, he's kind of like a cross-class character. He's kind of like a fighter and a magic user. Maybe he'd be considered like a ranger. Yeah. Or he
something like that.
He can do some magic, but it's potions. He can make a potion. Yeah. I think he made a couple different kinds, didn't he? Or was it just one kind of potion?
It was just like this kind of like black and green goop that actually plays into the plot later on.
Yeah, and he'd keep it in jars and stuff. But it's pretty cool.
Now the thing about this movie, like I could see how some people might find it frustrating that none of the battles with the monsters are shown, just the aftermath is shown, like where he comes back to his cabin and he's wounded, but he's been the victor because he throws the little head in the bag on the floor and just puts the new head on the thing. You know what I mean? But in a way, I liked that better.
You don't really need to see it.
You don't need to see it. Like, it was because of the budget and everything like that, but in a way I think it made it better because you kind of got a sense of this dude's, this is like his life. This is like his routine.
It's his job. To him, it's just like kind of like a job.
Right. And it's just like, oh, there I go. I got to go kill another one. And then he just comes back and sticks it on the thing. And it's like, you know what I mean? But there's still like kind of a sense of weight to his character because what he wants to do every time he goes out like to kill these monsters, he keeps hoping that it's going to be the specific monster that killed his daughter because he's trying to get revenge and stuff like that. So, like I said, this is one it really doesn't need any dialogue. It doesn't need a lot of flashy CG or a lot of special effects or anything like that because so much of the story is told through just the details, like on the screen. You know what I mean?
When you understand the budget of the movies was $30,000, this movie's like a 10 out of 10.
I'm still like, that fucking blows my mind.
If you didn't know
it blows my mind.
If you didn't know it was only a $30,000 budget, you still would probably give it a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. Yeah. Artistically, the tone, the mood's there, the acting, the sets, the costumes, just the way it's shot, the storytelling, the special effects. There's just nothing wrong with it.
That's what I mean.
Everything about it is good.
I was very impressed. Yeah. Like I said, the only I can see people complaining, like, you don't get to see any of the monster fights, or it's slow or boring or whatever. At the end. But but in a way, like I think that worked in its favor because it gave it. You got a real sense of this character as this is just his job, and it's just like a routine for him.
With what they delivered, if he'd had a $100,000 budget, you probably could have thrown a couple more monster fight scenes in it. But would that have improved the movie a lot?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't think it needed it. I mean, I really don't.
It was good the way it was.
Yeah, I liked it the way it was. I mean, like I said, your mileage may vary, but...
This is just a sign of the future that, you don't need these big Hollywood studios and shit tons of money. You just have to know what to do. Cameras and drones and all that stuff, it's a lot cheaper than it used to be. And, you can edit a lot of that stuff at home.
Yeah.
On just a PC with good software. It's, this is just going to be the way to go from here on out.
Yeah.
And you sell this stuff to Shudder or Netflix.
Or like I said, basically you make it, it makes the round of a film festival and usually gets picked up if it's good. So
those crappy ass movies I grew up with, those crappy ass horror movies I grew up with during the 80s, even the bad ones had $1 million budget at least.
Well, yeah, I said,
and what you ended up with might have been fun to watch, but they were shitty.
Yeah.
They were fun and shitty.
Yeah, they're fun and shitty.
They had a kind of a goofy tone to them. You weren't supposed to take them seriously or anything. This movie is serious. Yeah. It's like a serious movie.
Yeah.
It's a lot more serious than a 1980s $2 million movie.
Yeah.
Because that was crap.
And $2 million was nothing.
That was
even
nothing
back
then. That was nothing back then, and it was crap. Yeah. Like probably the worst movie that was watchable that I grew up with. That was like, that's a cheap movie, but it's not total shit. Would have been like Galaxy of Terror. Yeah. It had James Cameron doing the special effects.
Yeah. I liked that movie though.
It was a very watchable, low budget movie for the time, but that was still probably $6 million.
It probably was, yeah. I don't know offhand, but
it was still millions.
Yeah.
That was Corman. When it was a Roger Corman flick.
It was, yeah.
It was probably $3 million.
Basically like his Alien ripoff, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was an Alien ripoff.
Yeah.
Sid Haig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot he was in it.
Yeah, he was in it. Girl got raped by a big old caterpillar.
Well, I remember that scene. That was very memorable.
Yeah. Crystal jumped up in Sid Haig's arm, tried to kill him.
Yeah, that's right.
I live and die by the crystals.
We just watched that not too long ago, didn't we?
Nuh-uh. We saw clips from it.
Or something.
We just saw clips from it. I'd like to get that movie on Blu-ray. But that was an 80s cheap movie.
Yeah.
All right. This movie looks a lot better than that one.
I said, for $30,000, I didn't know that it cost $30,000. I mean, I figured it was probably like a low budget, but it did not occur to me that it was that low budget.
It's up there with like Mandy.
Yeah.
And watchability.
Yeah.
And enjoyability.
And like I said, I think a lot of it too, not only like the amazing locations and like the cinematography and everything, like with all the firelight and everything was like really beautiful. Yeah. But also that fucking actor, man. I hope he fucking does some other shit because he said so much, like with his body movements and his facial expressions. He said nothing hardly.
It had a very good tone. It had a very eerie kind of a dirty tone in a certain way because he was dealing with a lot of stuff that was rotten.
Yeah.
And you could tell it was kind of cold.
Yeah, it was a very grimy movie.
Wet, grimy. Yeah, and he was kind of living in squalor in a certain way.
Well, yeah.
Because it's a medieval era, and he's living in this kind of like house with a thatched roof on it. I don't even think it was stone, was it? Or was it stone with a thatched roof on top of it?
It might have been stone.
I think it might have been, but it had some pretty arcane looking stuff in there, wooden cabinets and jars and big collection of rotten heads, rotten monster heads inside,
on the wall,
just living with it.
Yeah, it's like this is one of the times that I'm really glad that movies aren't scratch and sniff.
Yeah,
because I'm sure this one
had to smell pretty bad in there.
Bad. But yeah, seriously, I think this is on other VOD platforms too. It's probably like Amazon Prime. Like maybe you can rent it on YouTube. I'm not sure, but Shudder has it. They just added it like a week ago, and this was actually a very, very pleasant surprise. This
10 out of 10.
Yeah,
man.
this is a fantastic movie. Like I said,
best bang for the buck. $30,000 movie, you can't beat this.
Don't go into it like thinking it's going to be like an action movie.
It kind of is.
It sort of is, but not.
At the end,
most of it's like off screen. Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's tonal. It's all about tone.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely recommend it. So the next thing we watched, I was actually going to watch this anyway, but then one of our listeners, Eric, the same guy that sent us the Piggly Wiggly bag from a couple weeks back, he sent me an email and it's like, you have to see The Confession Killer on Netflix, which is actually a documentary series. I think it was 5 episodes.
Did we show the Piggly Wiggly bag on the show?
We did, yeah.
Okay, good.
I still have it over there.
People from other countries that don't believe us that there is let them see that, we get one
going
called
down to Piggly Wiggly.
Yeah.
And I've got
the piglets wiggle. You get them and they're wiggling. That's what they're talking about.
I liked your little wiggle moves.
Yeah, they're wiggling out of your hands. You're trying to hold them. This is a Netflix original series called Confession Killer. And it was good. It's about what's his name?
Henry Lee
Lucas. And this one just gets crazier and crazier and crazier. Every episode it just gets crazier. If you haven't seen it, go check it out.
Yeah,
it's good.
Like if you don't know the story of Henry Lee Lucas, for a time in the 1980s, he confessed. They got him on. Well, he killed his mom in 1960. They convicted him of that.
Happened. Yeah. He was a kid.
He got convicted of that. Now he
his mom sounded pretty bad too.
Yeah, Viola was her name, and I think she was a prostitute or
turning tricks while the dad's in the damn wheelchair, right?
Yeah, or
something like that.
Something I don't know. Remember
making him watch, and then she beat him up pretty bad when he got big enough to fucking retaliate and killed her.
Yeah, he was 23 years old when he killed her.
Yeah.
So he did actually. I think he got 15 years for that. Now. He probably did kill. He had a 15 or 16-year-old girlfriend named Becky Powell. Later on, and he also had an older woman who was his landlord named Kate Rich. She was 82.
I thought that weren't they related? Becky and the landlord weren't they?
No.
Okay.
No.
He killed both of them though.
I suspect that he probably killed Kate Rich because she found out about him killing the girlfriend.
Right.
So.
They never did mention the girlfriend's family. Did she have one?
Yeah.
Like, did the parents and stuff? They never even mentioned the
I'm not
parents.
really sure. But it's
because she's like 13 and he's like 40-something.
No, she was 15.
15
or 16.
And she's dating Lucas, and Lucas was in his 40s, right?
I think so, yeah. I don't really remember.
I think the parents would be kind of against that.
Yeah.
15?
I don't know.
16?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Different time back then.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that far back.
It wasn't that far back.
It was the 80s.
Right.
But yeah, so when he got caught for those 2 murders, which they suspect he probably did those because, he did get convicted of them later on.
He knew where the bodies were.
Because he led police to where the bodies were.
Yeah.
And everything he said about the crime was correct. However, once he was at a court appearance for the Kate Rich murder, and he suddenly, apropos of nothing, just blurted out in the courtroom, what about those 100 other women that I killed?
Yeah, and they're like, what?
And everyone's like, record scratch.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
What about all them other 100 ones I killed?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it very quickly went to where like 300, 360.
600.
Yeah, and then 600.
It got a little out of hand.
Any case you gave to him, he confessed to it. It got fucking ridiculous. The Texas Rangers were involved. They were using him to clear his books, to clear their case files with. People from other states were coming. Cops from other states were coming, using him to confess. And he just made a living out of just confessing.
Right, and that's what's kind of like what's sad about this whole terrible saga is that here's this guy. Henry Lee Lucas was not a fucking genius. It's like he had like an 87 IQ. He had that weird droopy eye. He wasn't good looking. And
his boyfriend was even dumber.
And he hung out with Otis Toole.
Yeah.
And all this other stuff. But it got to a point in the 1980s where he was kind of like built up as, the world's most prolific serial killer because he was confessing to everything.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that, not to shit on the Texas Rangers, but I feel like they got a little over enthusiastic about wanting to clear their cases because it looks bad when you have unsolved murders on your books. People don't get promoted. People don't, various other things don't happen. There's a lot of politics involved. So they figured if this dumbass was going to confess to every single murder that they put in front of his face, and all he was asking in return was, hey, can I have a strawberry milkshake and all the cigarettes I want, and can I walk around the jail without handcuffs on, then they were like, well, fine. They didn't check
Well, they also took him places. They had to take him to these locations. So he was on the road constantly having fun. You know, he's in the back of the car watching everything.
Yeah.
Better than sitting in a cell.
And I'm sure they ran him through the McDonald's drive-thru and got him a Big Mac and shit like that.
But what I liked about this series, you know, it's not so much about the case, and we're talking really more about the series. The way the series tells the story with each additional episode. And how many of them were there?
There were 5. It was 5 episodes.
Each additional episode, it kind of like ups the crazy that you can't believe that this shit's actually happening.
And I knew something about this case before, but
you can't believe that some of the shit that he's saying, and you can't believe what the cops are believing.
Well, and you can't believe the one thing that shocked me the most. Like I said, I knew something about Henry Lee Lucas because, you know, they made Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer about him, which is kind of exaggerated, but
yeah, that's a disturbing movie.
It is very disturbing. Yeah. Michael Rooker was great in it.
But you can watch that and realize that that's all lies. That's all based upon lies that he and Otis told.
Came up with.
They came up with. The thing about Lucas is that the stories that he would tell couldn't have happened. They just couldn't. He's not a very physically imposing guy, okay? He's not mentally very fast. You could tell that he's not somebody who could really deal with a challenging and changing environment. He would claim to be a drifter.
Yeah.
But records all show that, no, he kept a job during all this. So how could you drive all over?
And that's how he knew that he didn't commit some of the crimes that he said he committed, because they found work records and, you know, speeding tickets and stuff like that, like in a state across the fucking country when he was supposedly did that.
He didn't have the wherewithal to even go on the road, really. He stayed at home.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
he did move from state to state, but it's like
he couldn't live on the road for months and months at the time, like he was claiming that and kill enough victims to get enough money off of them. He couldn't come in contact with enough women that had money on them on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think
because you'd have to kill several people a day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they'd had to have money on him to continue his travels.
Yeah.
And to cover his expenses and his food. It's just not plausible.
Well, and one of my most kind of shocking moments in this series was when, because of course the Texas Rangers are like saying, you know, oh, maybe he didn't commit some, but he, you know, we took his word for it. They were trying to like cover their ass.
Yeah.
But the thing is, later on, I mean, even back in the 80s, you know, there were some other law enforcement agents who were like, hey, wait a minute now. It's like, they just can't be. And somebody took like a map and showed, they're like, okay, they made a list of all the crimes that he had confessed to, and they're like, this is how he would have had to do. And they showed just like these lines just going back and forth and back and forth. It was like in a couple hours. It's like, there's no way. There's no way.
Gas, food, hotels, all that shit costs money. To go on a tour like that, you have to be bringing in a certain amount of money. Well, where does this fucking money come from? It's just ridiculous when you actually look at the huge scope of what they're talking about.
Of what he would have had to do.
Yeah. Now, if you were an attractive guy who was intelligent and fast and strong, and you were a killer, like a Ted Bundy type, maybe you could do it. But these guys were losers. I mean, you know, these were
Ted Bundy, I mean, he killed 30, and that's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, 600? Come on.
Yeah, and even a broke down crackhead would run from those two as soon as you saw them or smelled them.
Well, yeah.
You know, they
said he smelled really
said they smelled terrible, and he only had like 4 teeth. So it's not like he's going to be able to approach rich women that have money in their purses on a constant. But that's just not how it goes.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, he's physically overpowered him. He was not really even a strong guy.
Yeah, he was just a little.
Otis was kind of big, but not really.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the two of them together could do, but the whole money factor.
Yeah.
They would have, and they, guys like that normally victimize like bottom of the barrel, beggar type prostitute, junkie women. They don't have a dime. Okay. Yeah. You kill them, you don't get any money out of them. That's not going to fuel your travels.
Yeah.
You know, it's just. The story they're telling is just the cops knew that it was fake.
I think they knew, and they just, which bummed me out a lot, because in a lot of ways, like when they looked at a lot of the interview footage and shit like that later, it's clear that whether they were intending to do this or not, the law enforcement agents, particularly the Texas Rangers, were feeding him information or kind of leading him, leading questions, leading him down a certain path. They let him look at crime scene photos. They let him look at the police reports in some cases.
So he knew what the confession should look like.
So he knew what it should look like. He knew they drove him to where they thought the body was. It's like, you know what I mean? So... And they didn't check. It's like they didn't cross-check. Could he have been in this state when because he said he committed them all over the country. Yeah. They didn't really think to cross-check. And then later when they actually did that, they determined that there was just no way. Now, did he kill 3 people? His mom, his girlfriend, his landlord? I
think that's all he killed.
Probably, yeah. He was convicted ultimately of 11 murders, including at least one that they found out later on through DNA that he did not commit. It was just this weird thing where he was like trying to get the death penalty for a while because I guess because he maybe felt bad about, but the thing about it is that as dumb as he wasn't that dumb because he seemed really good at like cold reading, you know what I mean? Yeah. And manipulating like the cops into getting what he wanted. You know what I mean? So it's like he had a structure in his life for the first time, so he was just like giving them what they wanted, and he seemed to be really good at doing that.
Funny thing, they didn't go into Otis too much.
Not really. There's just like a couple of minutes of it.
I don't know who he killed. Or what to do. He said when they would ask him, what happened in this, he would be like, well, what does Henry say? Whatever Henry says, that's what happened.
That's what happened.
Yeah, what does Henry say?
He was just basically his
yes man. With whatever Henry says. I don't think he killed anybody with Henry. I don't think so.
Yeah, it's like, I'm kind of doubting it. I would have to look more into Otis specifically because, like you said, they didn't really go into him a lot on the show.
They had something on him. They had something on him, but that was probably all he did, whatever they had on him.
Yeah. So,
I don't believe in this. They went on this cross-country murder
spree for like 8 years and they're like killing 600 people. I don't buy that.
I don't think
anybody buys that.
I don't think they had the faculties to do it.
No.
And,
the thing about this is that this is like, it's so fascinating because like you said, it gets crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
And
Groupies
even though
trying to get him out of prison.
Yeah, and it's like, even though I knew something about this case, I didn't know like all the details of it and like all the details of the crimes he confessed to. So it was like fucking crazy. And they do kind of go in, in the end, they do kind of go into a little bit of, because now they've started doing DNA on some of these cold cases and some of the ones that he confessed to. Now, as of this series coming out, they have actually 20 cases, I believe, that were among the ones that he confessed to. They have determined through DNA that they were perpetrated by other individuals.
He killed his mom. All right, he did that.
Yeah.
He killed his little girlfriend, and he killed that old lady.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much
all. That's pretty much it. I think the Texas Rangers think that he might have done a couple more because it's that, he led us to the bodies and stuff like that. But
you can't trust them.
Like I said, you can't trust that because...
Yeah. They were helping him.
They were kind of like feeding him information.
Yeah.
I think they were feeding him information.
Yeah.
So so definitely this is a really, really good series.
You got to see it. He was just confessing because he got
privileges.
Milkshakes and privileges and a lot of attention.
And
nobody ever paid any attention to either him or Otis.
Yeah.
They were all of a sudden now they're on TV.
Yeah, he's like a celebrity.
Celebrities. They would say anything, and they did not want out of prison.
No,
they didn't want to go anywhere. They were having a good time in prison. So that
they got treated pretty good. Yeah. I mean, for being in jail.
They lived better in prison than they did when they were free.
Exactly.
Probably.
So why would he want to get out?
Why would they want out? Yeah.
Yeah. So
they were bums basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, if you're into true crime, you've got to see this shit. Like I said, it just gets crazier and crazier, and it's not only, it focuses more on less about the crimes, I guess, and more on him and like the crazy shit and like kind of the the dynamic between him and the Texas Rangers and like all the other people trying to like call him out and saying, there's no way he could have done it. So it's depressing, but it's also like really fascinating.
I thought it was funny.
Look into it. Yeah, it's like kind of funny, like in a fucked up kind of way too. But so definitely check this one out. It's on Netflix at the moment. The next one we saw was also a Shudder exclusive. This is called Perfect.
Yeah, if you like Mandy, you'd like this one. There's a lot about its color palette and the way it's shot. It kind of reminds me of that movie. I don't know if it's some of the same people involved, but This is a good movie. So it's odd like that, like Mandy was.
It's very you guys. It's very, very, very arty-farty.
Yeah.
Even more like Mandy. It's more like that director, who's I can't remember his name right now. He's Greek, isn't he? But it's like his first movie, Beyond the Black Rainbow. This is much more like that.
Yeah. It's about like it's a high-tech theme, kind of like body modification is what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're cutting pieces of themselves and taking it out and putting these artificial things in there, and it just looks like little damn cubes of gelatin and shit.
Yeah.
And crystal, and it changes them, and this is happening inside of kind of like a mental institution. It's
or
weird.
Something like that. It's like, it's set at unspecified time in the future. The main character, who's like a teenage, well, I guess he's like 18, 19, early 20s. He doesn't have a name. He's just called Vessel 13. His mother, he murders his girlfriend at the beginning, and his mother puts him in this institute.
Some kind of prison
that's
institute.
like, but not really, but it's because it's like a really fancy house.
Yeah,
it's like
so
really
high tech. It's like it's
with like a beautiful pool and all this other stuff.
Yeah, it's like a prison, but instead of it being a prison that you would know of, it's more like a paradise.
Yeah.
And they're trying to re-engineer you or something.
Yeah, they're basically trying to like put you on a different evolutionary path or something. Yeah. It's not super clear.
It's not real clear exactly what they're doing, because what they're doing is in the future and we can't understand it, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. This is kind of like, and then there's like, he'll like cut pieces of himself out, like
and lift it out and then put it in.
And then put it in new, like he's trying to like fucking, but it's like, okay, so if you liked, this is kind of a cross between Beyond the Black Rainbow, Blade Runner 2049 gave me a little bit of that vibe.
Upgrade.
Little bit of Upgrade, but slightly.
Yeah.
And a new retro wave music video.
Yeah, yeah. And it has a lot of those red creepy tones that you see out of like Mandy.
Yeah, it's had like a lot of like really trippy visuals.
It's kind of like you're under the influence of some kind of fucking LSD or something. It's like that.
Yeah, it is very much like that. So like I said, there is a plot, but
hard to understand.
I don't think you're going to know what's going on. I'm not really even sure the screenwriter knows what's going on.
I don't know. Like, I think he did. I didn't really know what was going on all the time. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
It was good, though. I'd have to see it again.
Yeah, it's
very artistic.
Like I said, this reminded me very, very strongly of Beyond the Black Rainbow in the sense that you're watching it and it's really cool and you kind of know that something is going on and it has to do with this institute and it's like, we
don't have the
evolving or something, but it's like, but really at the end of it, you're like, what the fuck was going on with that? It's like
it's in the future. We don't know the fucking technological context.
I guess so.
I don't know what
they're trying to make.
I don't understand how a solid cube of plastic, kind of like an ice cube, can be put inside of a person. There's definitely not enough room, but it went in anyway.
Well, yeah.
And then somehow it changed him. It was weird.
Except I got the feeling that it wasn't working.
Yeah, I'd have to see it a couple of times
because he was like a killer, and they were trying to like genetically engineer that out of him, and I think it wasn't working.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's kind of what the whole... Now, the weird thing about this is that apparently the original title for this was Puberty, which I'm not sure if that gives you any insight into what it's a metaphor for or symbol for or anything. This has gotten... I looked at like some of the reviews and like some of the... And apparently people really, really hate this movie. Like I think it only got like 17% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. Yeah. It got like a couple of cool reviews. Some of the reviews said, it looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks
like,
really good.
It's like a cool like weird midnight movie type of vibe to it. Yeah. But it's like it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's like it's very, very, very arty, very pretentious. And I'm not going to argue with that. One of the best reviews I saw that I think was from Slant Magazine, and the guy said, he's like, this is the sort of purposefully inscrutable, wandering, disconnected, symbolic, and highly precious mood bath that you'll either adore or loathe. Yeah. That is a very, very apt description.
I'm pretty sure it makes sense. We just don't understand it.
Maybe we just can't understand because there's a line in the movie where, because there's a thing where he kills his girlfriend at the beginning and he goes to this institute, and I guess his mom had been there like at some point when she was younger, and he meets this girl named Sarah. Is Sarah the girlfriend that he killed? They kind of imply that she's not, but that she is, but they don't really kind of do anything with that, I don't think.
I was thinking that maybe it might be virtual reality.
Maybe.
to where he's not really there. He's
Yeah.
in a matrix, basically.
Maybe that's what it is.
And all the little body modifications and the cubes he's putting himself are actually more kind of like programs.
Yeah.
They're trying to reprogram him. That's what I thought was going on.
That's a good read.
That nothing in it was real.
Yeah.
It was all happening in his mind.
Oh, that would make things make a lot more sense.
That's what I thought was going on.
Yeah. Because a lot of the shit that happens, like a lot of he has like a lot of visions and stuff like that too, of like, because remember all those visions he was having of him as like an old, like a caveman or something, like he had the white shit all over him and he was like tying the girlfriend up and burning her alive and shit like that.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that. But see, there was a line in the movie that this girl, Sarah, who may or may not have been his dead girlfriend, and she said to him at one point that, because he was kind of like flirting with her, sort of in a weird languid sort of way, but you know, she had a line where, it won't work between us because she essentially was on like a way higher like evolutionary plane than him, and she didn't want to, like, you know what I mean? So maybe that's the movie telling the audience that the movie is on a way higher evolutionary plane than the audience is. Well, so if you don't understand it, then
kind of what I thought is, remember in THX 1138 they get Thex, and they've got him in that big white room and they're trying to reprogramming his thinking, and he's just like sitting there and they're making him that's what I thought probably the reality was. This kind of has
like a THX 1138
where
kind
really
of
he's in a cell and they're messing with his brain.
That could be, yeah.
And what you're seeing is you're seeing the hallucination of the re-engineering of his. That's kind of what I thought. I was going like, none of this is real. He's in the Matrix.
That kind of makes sense.
That's, you know, that's what I thought.
Yeah, you could read it that way. I mean, I'd have to see it again because, like I said, now there
were too many violations of physics happening.
True.
And too many visions, so it had to have been happening in his mind, and he's in some kind of.
So there was no reality.
There was no reality in any of the movie. I thought it was all inside his head. He was in some kind of cell somewhere, and they were reprogramming him.
I think I like it better with that interpretation. Now
that's what I thought. That's what
I mean, I dug this movie, but I can see how most people would probably hate it. You know what I mean?
It's not for the average person.
It's really not. Like I said, it's one of those ones where you're like, I'm not really sure what I just watched, but it was kind of cool. Like,
you got to go into it knowing that.
And probably some mind-altering substances might help.
If you go into this knowing that the movie is not going to portray realism, I think that
it probably will. Yeah.
Kind of like his Eraserhead or something.
Yeah, this is definitely a weird. Fucking.
It's a weird movie.
But
it's good though.
I liked it. It was cool. But so it's on Shudder at the moment. Like I said, I think it premiered at some festivals last year, but it only came out in wide release this year. So if that sounds like something that you would be into, then by all means check it out. All right, now for our bonus fourth movie. We weren't going to actually do 3 movies, but then we ended up last night, a little early evening, and we got a little drink, and I said, you know what? I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to watch the new Martin Scorsese movie, The Irishman, which is a commitment because it's 3.5 hours long.
Yeah, but it's a good 3.5 hours.
It did not seem that long to me.
Kind of like Godfather Part 2 or Godfather 1, you know. This is kind of like the Expendables version of a gangster movie. They're all fucking old. Old guys, old gangsters. They were old even when they're young in this movie.
Because, they're all de-aged.
They're de-aged. But they de-aged them down to about 50, probably.
Honestly, though, I have to say, the de-aging is
pretty good.
Noticeable.
Yeah,
but after like a couple minutes, I didn't notice it anymore. This is the best de-aging that I have ever seen so far.
You see how old these guys really are nowadays, man. You know, these fuckers are old, man. In the 80s, 70s.
Well, it happens to everyone.
Yeah, they're looking rough. They're looking pretty rough.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of them. There's a few of them that don't look that bad, but yeah, this is going to be their last hurrah, I think.
Well, in that way, like, so I'm really glad that like Martin Scorsese got like all of I mean, this is an amazing fucking cast.
It's a good and it's an all-star cast, and it is a good gangster movie.
It's like Goodfellas kind of, but
Goodfellas and Godfather mixed together.
It's more like you know, there's violence in it, there's more, but it's more like a meditation on, because you know the Frank Sheeran character, who's played by Robert De Niro. It's like this is him as an old guy recalling shit that happened in the late 60s, early 1970s. Recalling his life. So it's almost like a more reflective Goodfellas.
Yeah, and the main topic is Jimmy Hoffa. Really,
yeah, I mean, it's from Frank Sheeran's point of view.
Yeah, who Jimmy Hoffa was, what happened to him, and how that shit went down. The Teamsters and all the gangsters that were around that. It's a good flick, a real good movie. Scorsese did a good job on it. It's got some good storytellings. There was a couple little things that kind of, I think, was a mistake. There's one scene where, just like in Goodfellas, what's his name, Robert De Niro talks to the audience. Remember that I don't know if he did it. He did it in narration or if he did it.
Well, he was narrating because he was talking to an unseen person, about his
right, and also he was talking to the audience to explain what a certain phrases meant, type of deal. And they only do it in the very beginning of the movie. It never does it again, so it kind of threw the tone off. You know what I mean? Either do that or don't do it. Because in they did that in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
But they consistently did that in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Where a character would explain something. It was Ray Liotta would explain things to the audience that because gangsters did certain things.
Yeah.
But they only did it like once or twice in the very beginning, and I thought that was weird that he didn't do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was more of it through there, but it wasn't. I mean, they didn't really go overboard with the narration,
right?
Because, like I said, the whole frame story is his character. He's playing Frank Sheeran, who is a real guy, and he's like in a old folks home, and he's telling someone about his involvement in the killing of Jimmy Hoffa.
Another thing that threw me out of the movie is that there's a scene where they got De Niro de-aged in kind of like a fight scene where he's beating up
he curb stomps like a grocery store
guy
that grabbed his daughter or something.
They got him de-aged into his late 50s.
I think he's supposed to be. Well, I think
he looks like an old man.
The real guy was supposed to be 37 at that time. I think
the de-aged version of him doing this fight. Look, he looks old. He looks like in his late 50s, in a bad late 50s. All right. And he curb stomps this other dude, but the body language is obviously that of an old man.
But he is an old man.
All right. I would not have shown that on screen or used a body double to do it, because just the way he's moving like a dude that has osteoporosis.
That's it,
stomping another guy. It looked cartoonish and very, very fake. I would have used a body double and then digitally put
his face on there.
Yeah,
because they can do that.
I could tell that was
an old man, like a dude in his 70s or 80s.
Yeah, like a dude, and I could tell it was De Niro's body.
Yeah,
I could read his body language, but I could also tell that was a 70-something-year-old De Niro.
It was,
and he looked very frail.
Yeah, but that's kind of like, I mean, other than that. And like I said, the de-aging the faces and stuff like that did not bother me in the slightest. It's not distracting. I didn't find it distracting. I didn't even... In fact, they did it so subtly in some scenes, because this kind of skips back and forth in time a lot. So in some cases, I couldn't really... I don't know. It didn't bother me, like, after a while. But yeah, I can see that one scene where you actually see him full body, like, stomp on that guy.
Yeah, it didn't look good to me.
So they probably should have just left that out.
Should have left it out or used a body double and put the face on there.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, that's
the movie was really good.
That's kind of like my only complaint about it.
Those are the only two things that took me out of it.
Yeah.
And De Niro can still act. He did pull the role off. I just didn't think he didn't have the prowess, really, the physicality you need to pull that one scene off. They should have used somebody else for that. That was the only problem with the movie. The rest of it, the movie's great.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is based on a true story. I think the book came out in 2004, and it's called I Heard You Paint Houses, which is also what it looks like this movie is called, because I think the opening credits just said I Heard You Paint Houses. It didn't say The Irishman until the end. So I think while they were working on the movie, that's what they were going to call it, because that's what the book is called. I Heard You Paint Houses being like, hey, I heard you kill people. for the mob. You know what I mean?
What's the guy's name that played Hoffa again?
Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, yeah. Al Pacino did a great job.
He was fantastic in this.
And Al Pacino's actually held together pretty well. I know he's younger than those other guys, I think.
A little bit.
A little bit younger, but he's still looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think they de-aged him as well, maybe, but I don't know, maybe not.
I think that might have been him.
Yeah, but
because I think he was supposed to be I think back in the olden days.
Yeah.
Okay, he was a little bit older than everybody else, so I think they just showed him at his prop. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, in a way that's kind of good because you're not really sure when they're de-aged and when they're not. You know what I mean? Even though I was kind of looking out for it.
Yeah.
Because I had heard about it.
I don't think Al Pacino was de-aged.
But it's not super noticeable.
Yeah, if he was de-aged, it wasn't by much. I don't think. But of course, he pulled that role off.
He was great in this.
Yeah,
he was great.
He was great in it. They were good.
And the thing about it is that, like I said, this is almost like I want to say it's more reflective. It's more meditative. Not really. There's still like action. There's violence in it. These are gangsters. There's people getting whacked. There's all that kind of stuff. But since you're seeing it from the Frank Sheeran's character, and he's telling it, regretfully, I guess, almost like how it happened.
Yeah.
So there's more, and this is more, so it's a lot kind of emotionally resonant, more, also much funnier. It was very funny. Like it had a couple scenes that we were just like busted up laughing.
Yeah.
Like it has like a really lot of great humor. The pacing of this, like I said, you would think, 3.5 hours, holy shit. But it's like, it really did not seem that long at all because you just got so engrossed in this story of like all this kind of like complicated shit that's going on.
They're all a bunch of friends and they're all fucking making money doing illegal stuff, and when some of them start fucking up, you got to cover your own ass. Sometimes you have to kill dudes to keep them going to prison. But if you watch the movie, they bring it on themselves mostly.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. You're just kind of seeing like
and they try to help them. Like, don't do this. You know what I mean? This isn't going to go, you guys are never going to do nothing to me, that kind of deal,
But then at the end, all fucking Joe Pesci's character has to say is, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
And you know what that means.
Yeah. Tell them it is what it is.
They're going to plug you.
Yeah.
That's what that means. Whether or not, because like I said, this is based on a book where Frank Sheeran basically came out and said what happened to Jimmy Hoffa, like why they never found him. He's like, yeah, I'm the guy that killed him and shit like that. But no one knows whether his account of what happened is true. You know what I mean?
This is probably true.
But it probably, some other, researchers have come out and said, this, that, and the other, and they've like shown how maybe it couldn't be true, but,
Yeah, I'd always thought that what they had done with the body is had it underneath a damn, stadium.
Well, yeah, that was the legend. That was
the legend because some of those mob guys were connected with the construction of a stadium around that time. And maybe they put him, underneath when they were pouring foundations, making things. That'd be a good place to put him. But the movie has a much better explanation
for what happened,
for what they did with the body, and then once you see
splashy,
it
but
and once you see it that way, you're like, that's
probably
what they did. There's a lot more
because that's more in line with
what they did in the past,
what they would have done.
Yeah, which I don't know if I should spoil that. I'm not gonna spoil that.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So, like I said, if you've read the book or if you've read anything about this, this movie. It did have a limited theatrical release, but okay, so this is something that happens. This movie costs like $159 million to make.
Damn.
Now, it's one of his Martin Scorsese's most expensive movies. Now, he got like money from a bunch of production companies. He got a bunch of money from Netflix to make it. And then there was like a huge controversy because he wanted to release it in theaters, but then release it to VOD, like not that, far in the future. Like he wanted it only to be like a week or two apart. And all your big movie chains, AMC, Cineplex, all that, and they said, no, we want at least 2 months lead time. We want to have 2 months to play it in the theater, and then you can show it at home. And they didn't want to do that. So there was like this kind of big deal about, most of the major chains would not show the movie because they didn't feel like Netflix was giving them long enough to show it in the theater before they put it on streaming. So there was like a big kind of controversy about this in this country and in Europe. However, it did get a limited theatrical release and made, a few $1 million and even though it was on only 500 screens in the US, because that's pretty much all you can get if the chains won't show your movie, is you get 500 screens. So it actually did really well. Some of the, showings in like New York and LA and stuff like that were sold out. So I don't know if this is actually going to make its money back, even though it was one of the highest, Netflix. I think it was maybe the second highest, viewership of like the first, like I think 17% of their viewership watched it in the first week that it came out, which was like really, really good. And it's also I think it got like nominated for like Golden Globes. It's got like it's got pretty much universal acclaim.
This one will go down as a classic.
I think so too.
It'll be like Godfather 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It'll be like Goodfellas. It'll be like Casino. It'll if you're into gangster movies, this is it. But this one is kind of like the last hurrah of that generation of actor.
Yeah.
They're just not gonna be able to make a movie like this again. We're using those guys. There's not enough time, I don't think, and I don't think they'd be interested in doing it.
No, probably not. Like I said, Joe Pesci did not want to do another movie because he's pretty much retired.
It's going to take another 5 years to make a movie like this at least, and 5 years from now, man, those guys aren't going to be interested in that shit.
Fuck, man, think about it. Martin Scorsese is in his 70s.
Yeah.
And for him to come out and make this movie, this is a fucking
caliber.
Epic gangster movie.
Yeah.
And it's so good. And it was just like I said, I was never bored. I was super engrossed in the story and engrossed in these characters, and like all the acting in it is amazing. And it's just like such a great fucking movie. So for somebody that, of that age to come out and be like, mic drop and like make a movie like this.
Yeah. What's funny is that on the downside of this whole situation is that there aren't very many actors that have the street cred and the star power to do roles like this.
Yeah.
Like these actors are all one of a kind actors. I can't think of, if you're going to, the gangster movies of the future just aren't going to have that kind of impact, I think.
I guess it depends. You never know, like, where...
The dude who played the right-hand man to the woman in Luke Cage, so we just saw him again. He could play a gangster. What was that guy's name?
I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy that played Shades that was in the
guy that plays Shades. He could probably do it. There aren't many guys out there with the name recognition.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of guys like that working probably in the indies. But like you said, nobody of that much star power where like everybody knows who they are. Like everybody knows their name. But I feel like that's kind of like almost a holdover from the 70s, maybe. Like that's kind of your big heyday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This movie is kind of a throwback to it is
kind of like in the way it's structured and stuff. But I have to say, like I said, it's just, if you like gangster movies, you have to fucking see this. It's one of the best gangster movies ever. It's like I said, it's kind of like a more meditative take on Goodfellas with a lot of the same cast and a lot of the same subject matter. But it's just, I don't know. There was just something really, and I can't think of the word, but it's just like, I was just like riveted the whole fucking time.
It's got nostalgia to it.
Yeah.
There's a certain nostalgic tone to it. It kind of takes you back kind of into the olden days, even though, like, I was a little kid when Jimmy Hoffa died. But, in the 80s, being in the Detroit area, as a teenager, and knowing the Detroit area kind of reminded me of what the houses looked like in that area, and the culture of the time, things that kind of centered around the auto industry and unions. All that shit's gone now.
Yeah.
And it was because of stuff like this.
Yeah.
The unions kind of destroyed themselves. They were fucking corrupt.
Well, and this movie kind of goes into like a lot of the shit that happened about that. Even though, like I said, the heart of the movie is kind of like the relationship between Frank Sheeran and Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah.
And then also kind of, the conflict that develops between him, and his friendship with Jimmy Hoffa, and Jimmy Hoffa becoming problematic for his kind of mob overbosses.
Part of the reason why, a lot of the audio industry went to damn China and Mexico is because of this shit.
Yeah.
These unions, they fucked over the audio industry and people trying to look for work, because you couldn't get work unless you joined that union, and then they had the control over who joined the union. They're gangsters.
Yeah, so like gangsters, I said, so it's kind of like
the average man couldn't get a job because the unions would keep you out. Because
it's kind of like a time capsule of that
era. Yeah.
And like I said, it spans kind of like, Frank Sheeran. It's kind of like his biopic, but not really, because it's kind of like has a larger scope. But it kind of like how he first got in with the mob, and like how he, kind of worked his way up through the ranks. And like I said, then it kind of gets into the whole Jimmy Hoffa thing. But like I said, don't let the 3.5 hour runtime scare you off. It really does not feel like 3.5 hours. I didn't think
it's the same as binging a series.
Yeah,
and everybody binges a series anyway.
Yeah,
same thing.
Shit. We sat and watched the whole Confession Killer.
Right,
and that was 5 hours.
5 hours, so
just about 4.5, 5 hours.
Same thing.
And that didn't seem long to me either. But yeah, so like I said, if you haven't seen this one, this is definitely one you need to see. I think this is gonna kind of go down as a classic. Probably win a bunch of awards, I would imagine.
Yeah, like Godfather.
Other than ones that it's already won or that it's already been nominated for. So yeah, on Netflix, go.